Hey guys, Rollout here with LEGO Promare, Mad Burnish, Leo Fotia. Listen up, don't underestimate him. He's the root of all Burnish crime and the world's been hunting him for 30 years. He's the leader of Mad Burnish. After having built the Matoy tech, naturally, I also built this guy to fight him. The two characters are at the core of the film, and I wanted representations of both up on my shelf. Now there's plenty more I could build from Promare, the other Mad Burnish, the rest of Burning Rescue, Freeze Force, Leo de Gallon, Crazer X, but I'm not sure if I want to. I think I'm content just having Leo and Gallo, and I feel like if I build anyone else, I'll be going down a rabbit hole I'm not entirely prepared for. But who knows, we'll see, anything can happen. For right now, this is all I got. Leo rivals the Matoy tech's lack of feet by basically standing on triangles, and I've captured this by angling some rods inward and combining them with minifigure hands, which doesn't come to quite the point that they do in the movie, but this is a blessing in disguise because it means he has a flat footing and can actually support himself if you position his legs correctly. For articulation, they go in and out, forward and back. There's actually a secondary joint in the middle of the legs, so you can bend them a little bit further. The knee bends, and they rotate at the lower leg, which is extremely helpful for balance. I've designed the waist so that it pulls out on a robot claw, allowing some greater ab crunch. This also creates a rotation here, and combined with a rotation here, allows for some cool, tilty waist articulation, like this. The whole thing is built around this large gun element here, and this circular detail on his back attaches to its handle. The arms go in and out, forward and back. They have that extra joint in the middle, just like the legs, that allow them to get into some interesting positions like this. The shoulder pads can rotate so that they look a little bit more natural. Then, of course, they bend at the elbow and rotate at the wrist. His head attaches on a T-joint, allowing a rotation, but also some up and down movement. The visor of his helmet is meant to look like a toothy grin, and while that's not entirely apparent here, I think it's recognizable enough. I've accomplished this with a couple of snot techniques, both for the top of the head and for the jaw. These fiery horns are meant to sprout from his visor, and while there's a little bit of a disconnect here, I did what I could at this scale. Now before we move on to his accessories, I just want to quickly demonstrate that as long as you're mindful of balance and the way his feet touch the ground, he is able to pretty solidly support some very dynamic action poses. With that said and done, let's start with the big one. Of course, I wanted to build Leo's fiery throne that he summons in one of the most iconic scenes. It has the 6 main spires and the triangular shapes on the front, and it's mostly comprised of jumper plates. I think I used over 100 in its construction, and it gives it this rigid and crystalline shape. Leo fits in just like this. He doesn't peg in or anything, but he sits rather comfortably, as you can see. And in the movie, this was a lot bigger. The thing is, this is my preferred way of displaying Leo up on my shelf. I wanted it to be instantly recognizable, but not take up too much real estate. And I think it strikes a pretty good balance. I've also built a single Promare to display on its own or as a fireball in Leo's hand, and it's built pretty simply. It's just a blast effect with a stud in the middle. Technically, the basic Burnish flame is supposed to be a blue core with pink flame around it, but that fluctuates back and forth, and personally, I just think this looks a little bit better in LEGO. Here are a couple simple strings of fire for him to conjure and lash about. Maybe these are the beginnings of those Burnish snakes that he summons. The lashes can also be combined with this fire arrow to form his flame bow. This uses a very similar technique to the Promare, where a 1x1 can fit into the bottom of this blast effect. And in the movie, he shoots 3 of these at a time, but I think this gets the point across well enough because I don't plan on displaying him with this too often. I decided to portray his sword in the absolute simplest way possible. It's supposed to have some blue and pink and a crossguard, but any attempt I made at that sort of complexity was just way too bulky and frankly awful looking. I think just giving him a green sword is recognizable enough. Plus, this kinda seems to me how LEGO themselves would approach something like this. Finally, for size comparison, here he is with a minifigure, and while this seems big, it's actually more accurate than you might think. I don't know how Leo fits inside, but his armor is gigantic. Here he is with Bumblebee, and here he is together again with the Matoy Tech, who is obviously more massive, but they end up being about the same height. So, until next time, this has been Rollout, signing off.